Hi, Lisa and I are here in the living room, or actually dining room. I was going to talk today a little bit about what this place was like when I bought it back in 1976. Certainly looked a lot different than it does now, but it kind of goes to what people think, that you just kind of fall into this stuff and you don't have to work for it, but you do. It's no harder now than it ever was. There's a little difference in money, but you used to have to work your job 40, 50 hours a week, whatever, and then come home and work on your buildings. You had to, any progress you made, you didn't make working during the week. That just paid your bills. Your progress you made was after hours, weekends. That's when you gained. So Lisa scanned a little shot of what it looked like when part of it looked like when we bought it.
I can do that now.
We didn't buy it directly from Pete Gallerini, but this calendar was done in 1961 when he had a major cattle operation here, barns and trucks and God, hell and all. Kenneth Eastman used to live in the house here, and there's a lot of guys that worked here. They also had below that, you can see down below in this other picture, this is where the commission sale was. My brother-in-law owns that down there now. So he had this place to truck cattle in and out of Boston, and then he had the commission sale. He had buyers going all over the place buying. They'd bring them in there once a week and have a commission sale. But I got out of the service in 1971, basically 72. I rented a little chalet from Kermit Richardson up in Corinth. Just a temporary thing. He was nice enough to rent it to us. And then I think in the spring we ended up buying a place from him that he had listed. He was a real estate agent. He had it listed down in Bradford. I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he lived there for years after he bought it from us. And we had a little ranch home, nothing, it was just, wasn't me, that's for sure. I didn't have any room down there. And we were there, I think Linda said 5 years, something like that. I think it was about 5 years. And I got to driving around one day. I was homesick and I didn't feel good, and I was driving around out here for some reason. I drove by this place and I kept telling people somebody ought to buy that place and fix it up, because oh, it looked awful. God, it was rough around here. It had been bought up by a cattle dealer from Massachusetts at an auction. There'd been different tenants in here. A farmer had lived here for a while, different tenants, and they just trashed the place. And there was all the barns and stuff that were around outside that we saw in the other picture were all burned and gone. Kids had set fires in the barn and burned all that stuff. They didn't burn the house for some reason, but anyway, I was not mounted to nothing that day anyway, so I stopped in down to Kermit's office and just mentioned this place out here, and you could tell that they wanted to move this place. So he scooped me up, got me all excited, and I just felt like I thought, being young, you figure you can do most anything. And I said, oh hell, I'll have that place all fixed for 5 years. Well, baloney. We bought it like in February when it was wicked cold. I mean, it was so goddamn cold. You couldn't do anything outside, and the whole inside needed to be gutted. I mean, it was just, when I came in here, the ceilings were half down. There was wires hanging out. You couldn't go down cellar. I tried to go down cellar to check out down there, but I tried to open the door up here and I couldn't open it. I mean, you could get it part way open, but you peek around there and the whole cellar stairway was full of garbage. They'd just thrown their garbage down the cellar stairs, the last tenants. So I said, geez, so I got out front here and there was a wood access place where you throw wood down cellar. So I got down through there, and there was water, frozen ice all over about 6-8 inches deep, all over the basement. There was a boiler down there. It was all busted to hell. And I could hear water running. And the reason there was water running is that's the only way they could keep it from freezing. So they'd busted off a pipe down cellar and let it spritz away down there so the pipe wouldn't freeze. And they had a temporary line run out through into the garage. There was tenants here at that time. 2 tenants, one upstairs, one in the end. And one of them was paying rent, one of them wasn't. I think they were paying $75 or something like that. Anyway, I know when I got into the cellar, it was a big mess. And I went over towards the stairway and I could see it was just all nothing but garbage all around. They'd thrown all the garbage down the stairs. I went around to look at the plumbing and stuff because that was going to have to be dealt with. I looked at the toilet and I said, what the hell? Apparently the toilet had frozen up. So somebody had the bright idea and they went down with a hammer and busted the cast iron off the bottom of the toilet and just shit down cellar. Right, just let it go right down into the basement. So there's a big pile of that down there. And I'm telling you, things were rough around here. So I don't know what possessed me to buy it. I did see a lot of potential, but my God. I talked to Linda about it a little bit. She probably thought I was nuts, but she was, you got to give her credit. She's put up with a lot of crap that I come up with over the years. But anyway, we worked out a deal with Richardson so that we could, with Richardson and this guy named Canny, Wilfred Canny, that was a cattle dealer from Massachusetts, and we got it for, which was a fair price, I guess, at that time, but I should have never paid as much as I did, even though it was cheap. But we worked out a deal, and sure in hell I ended up buying the place. So this is like in February, so I said, well, I got to get started. I mean, my intentions was to move in that year. I mean, we had a place in Bradford still, and we had this place, so we were paying a mortgage on the both of them, so couldn't do that. We had to get going. So I started in here. I remember I had a friend named Dennis Drew. He was a plumber, and I was like cozying up to him because he was a plumber. And we had a stove right there where that one is. It was a different kind of stove, but it was just a box stove. And I had that thing hopping right up and down because it was so cold. It seemed like it was about 10 below outside and the wind blowing. And I was putting lath and stuff in there to just try to heat the place up a little bit. You couldn't though because it was all just wide open around here. But anyway, Dennis showed up. And I'll be damned, he walked in here and was looking around and sat right down on that stove. Now, I'm telling you, it didn't take him long to figure out that was not the right place to sit. He come jumping up and yipping and ki-ying, and I said, well, that might be hot. No, he says. So he was looking around and he says, no, I can work on that. I can get it ready and I'll put some heat in. We'll put a boiler in and stuff. And all right, so I had him kind of lined up. And then I had a friend by the name of Mike Conrad who's still around that he was an electrician. So I said, well, maybe he can help me. So he did. I mean, I had to gut this whole place. Literally. I mean, there's a few walls. I think the hallway I didn't truly gut out, although I worked in there and put in different doors. The bedrooms I gutted and re-insulated, rewired. Bathroom was done over. I mean, God, we just worked and worked and worked on this place. And at that time, I was working for Jack Williams. He was a contractor down in Bradford, and we were most of the time working down in Hanover building homes. So I'd get home at night and on the weekends and work on this place, and Linda worked on it, and Jesus, it was just work. We both had jobs. But I guess I'll show you this picture. This is a picture later on. This was
Hold it up, like,
probably in 90 or 91 or something like that. Right
Yeah.
there.
there we go.
Right there.
That's a little better. Yeah, right there.
You can see now, there used to be a building out back, not as big as the one that's there, it's just a chicken house out there, and I tore that down and built that strip shop out back because I needed something to do to make money, and at that time I was working over to Montpelier at Great American Salvage, and that was my job, doing stripping and stuff over there. So I built that shop so we could have a stripping outfit for people's doors and stuff like that, because that was a major part of our business. People would bring doors in to get them stripped, and then they'd buy a door, some hardware and other stuff. And then, well, most of that, I gotta get up here. Most of these buildings out back I put on. We redid the whole, this end here, it didn't have any window, just one window and a door in it. Rebuilt that into a workshop. Put this whole front, this window set up and door and the peaks and stuff, put that on. At that time I hadn't done anything as far as a deck here, but there was a dumpy looking deck there that we just used. We had tenants at that time. That was before we put the new roof on. That was before I cleaned up where the barns were. You can see where the barns were. Foundations. So yeah, that was in 90 to 92. But we'd come quite a long ways by then. I mean, at that point, that was, what, 15 years about? Something like that.
76 to 92.
Yeah, so we had a good start on it, but work and throw money into this place, my God, by the basketful. And just saying that, so you know, nothing. It wasn't easy for anybody around here. We all had our own mountain to climb, and this was mine and Linda's, unfortunately. But we got to that point, and then I got that building built out back for stripping. Is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that. So then in 92, I think it was, we closed down operations over Montpelier from Great American Salvage, and that's where I got my training, if you want to call it that, about how to buy and sell architectural stuff, and I knew I needed a strip tank and all that. So, gosh, we got started, kept working. I had a workshop. We didn't have room enough around here. At that time I was taking stuff over to Burlington and putting it in consignment. And it was just an awful lot of running around between the stripping and buying and selling and delivering, and oh my God, I was on the road all the time. So I did those little outbuildings there. I was able to put just mostly doors and some rough architectural stuff. And the same with the strip shop. We had a room out there, had quite a lot of stuff in there. So I was selling doors and stuff, but I was really penned in. But, you know, you can only do about so much. So around, what the heck was it?
Are you going to talk about the
2010?
Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway.
And we have that video of the progression of that
Oh,
building.
we do,
going on.
yeah.
That's on the YouTube channel.
Is it?
Yep.
So, I don't know, we limped along from 92 to through the 2000s, early 2000s. We kept building. Linda was working. When did you quit work, Linda, and come here? 98. So around 2000 I hired Terry Kingsbury, and he's the one that was doing the stripping, and I was running around buying and selling. And whenever he wasn't stripping, he was working, doing something around here, fixing stuff. So I don't want people to think that I did all the work, because I didn't, but you have to be involved in it all. So by 2010, I just we had gained a little bit, we'd done a lot, but I wanted to put up a building, so talked to Terry about it and talked to different contractors, finally got hooked up with the Pearson boys. They were contracting at that point, and went to the bank and did some financing and started building that. We built that building out there, that showroom and stuff, in 2010. Took about a year to get it all squared away and get filled up and everything, but gosh, that was a good investment, because at that time we were selling a lot of stuff. But, you know, there's another, I don't know how much it cost to put that up, but every time they turned around, somebody was giving me a bill for $10,000. And so that kind of filled it out. By the time we got that thing built, Terry had been here forever, you know, and he was working. He worked on that a lot. It was a great partnership, because he had all the skills and all the patience in the world, and I didn't have much of either one, so it worked out well. And that's how we got to this point. Terry retired in 2020, and since then we've been just kind of, you know, we don't have the woodworking shop anymore, and I don't do stripping anymore. I'm getting to be advanced in years enough, so I don't need to do that anymore. But this whole thing is just to show you that sometimes you'll get some. I've had guys tell me how lucky I am that I've got this place up here, and I'm thinking, what the hell does luck have to do with any of that? God, the only thing I was lucky enough to have was Linda. Went along with it. The rest of it I fell into by my own devices. But we've made a, you know, fairly good living, and it's interesting, and we still get people. We get to meet different people every day. People come from all over, and we buy and sell, and we'll do that for a while until we have to quit, and whenever that is, I don't know. But don't be afraid to tackle something just because you think it's a lot of work, because that's how you make out, is working towards a goal. And it may take a lot longer than you think, because I thought it was going to be 5 years. Afraid not. Still working on it. You'll work on a place like this as long as you own it, but it's come a long ways, I know that. And I hope that was interesting to you. Thanks.